Hi, I'm Michael Patterson. We've been talking about this initiative, Better Brains by Design, and the idea here is that we can, no matter what age we are, have better brains than we have now. We can always improve our brains, and by design, the idea there is that we know what to do. We can actually make conscious control, conscious deliberate choices that will influence the plasticity of our brain. Plasticity means the changeability, the malleability. Our brains are changing every single moment of the day, and they are influenced by what we do, what we think, what we feel. So if we can be mindful about all of these different influences, we can actually design what our brains will become, and we want them to become brains that are stronger and sharper and give us a much better idea of how to live life well and to flourish. So we've been looking at what are the different elements that go into creating this strategy for design. And I want to focus in this little segment on the creative process. We've done a lot of work in looking at creativity, and when you look at any strategic plan or anything that you do actually where there's a plan of action, it's a creative process because you're having to change routines that you have gotten into and develop new approaches. When you study creativity, you can look at either the creative person, what makes one person more creative than another. You can look at the creative product, what makes one product more creative than another. And this is sort of the domain of aesthetics, and it's very subjective. Why do I like one product better than the other? The third aspect, which is the area that we find most exciting actually, is the creative process. So you've got people, process, and product. We want to focus on the process because students of creativity over the years have identified specific stages that people go through when they're going through a creative process. And it's very useful to know what those stages are because if you miss one of those stages and try to leapfrog over it, generally you're going to run into problems. So in doing a strategic plan, we go into this in much more detail, obviously, in our books and in our seminars. We teach people about this, what we call the creative cycle. There are 7 specific stages that you go through. You tend to go through them more or less in order. And first part is goals and motivation, and we call those the 2 stages there. The initiation stage, it's getting started. Then there's a whole number of stages that are involved with idea generation and selection. And saturation is part of the process of research and skill building. Manipulation is where you start playing with ideas consciously. Incubation is where you prime your unconscious to work on these ideas and let them percolate. Illumination is the stage, it's sort of that aha point when a great idea suddenly comes to you either through deliberate analytic work or through this insight out of the unconscious mind, and you suddenly get this idea. It's great. You want to generate as many of those ahas as you can, because then you need to select the best among them. It's a mistake generally to go with the first aha that you've gotten, because it may not be the best aha. The final stage then is actually where you're implementing the idea, putting it out and seeing if it works, verifying it, finding out what works, what doesn't work. You learn from that, and it puts you back into a new creative cycle. So one of the great things about this creative process is it becomes self-generating. When you go through the process, you learn what worked, what didn't work, and it gives you the motivation and the incentive to go into a new phase of the project. And that's really where creative work happens. And so we help people understand this creative process to apply it to this whole challenge of building better brains and designing a strategic plan that will make our brains better as we get older.